All right. 2 seasons ago, your quarterback, future Hall of Famer Ben Roethlisberger, his arm went boom, like a rubber band. It blew up. The Duck from Alabama came in with his shotguns, and Mason Rudolph got hit over the head, and that's all ancient history. But Mike, as we started the 2020 campaign, the big question was, will Ben Roethlisberger's arm still be there? Or will it blow up in the 4th game, the 6th game, and just disintegrate, and that's the end of his career? Now, let's talk about the season and the future for Ben Roethlisberger. No, to heck with it, Mike. I'm going to the future first. There's no reason, unless his body is too beat up, that he should retire. He still has the arm. Mike, he passed for 3,800 yards this year. The GOAT of all time passed for 4,600 this year, Tom Brady. Not a lot of disparity there, okay? Your quarterback, future Hall of Famer Ben Roethlisberger, had 33 touchdowns, 10 interceptions. Just to compare him to Mr. Brady down there in Tampa, 40 touchdowns, 12 interceptions. So a lot of equalness there going on. Ben was only sacked, say what you want about the offensive line this year, only 13 times. Mikey, guess how many times Mr. Brady was on his tuchus this year? 19. So don't tell me Ben Roethlisberger had a bad year, okay? Don't tell me he's done. He's not. Now, this cat played in the league for the Browns.
No.
I just had to throw it at him. The Lions, the Eagles.
It wasn't much better, but yeah.
Yeah. Could you imagine being up by the mistake of the lake? Losing and freezing up in Cleveland would be a horrible thing.
At least we get to be indoors in Detroit, right?
Yeah, right. Let's go back to Ben and the season he had.
Well, I don't really look at the numbers so much. Passing yards doesn't mean anything to me because a lot of times passing yards, you're down and you have to throw the football. The Steelers actually just started throwing the football almost every play. So I don't look at the numbers so much. I look at his arm strength, his mobility, and his accuracy. His mobility's not nowhere near what it used to be. Okay, but can he still move around enough and make plays? Yes. Is his arm strong enough to put the ball out down the field? Yes, if he throws it on time, which comes to an offense and understanding the offense and being on time and throwing in rhythm. And his accuracy is just as good as it's always been.
Do you remember the pass to Washington?
He's got great accuracy. He's got great vision. That's one thing he's always had is when you're in that pocket, it's so hard to see through those guys, to see over those guys, to be able to dodge bullets and keep your eyes downfield and find the open receiver. And that's one thing Ben has always been great. I think that's his best attribute is his vision to be able to see down the field with the live bullets coming at him. And he is extremely accurate as a passer. So as long as he learns to throw the football on time, he can get those deep balls down the field. He still has the arm strength. You look at his arm strength compared to Brady, you look at his arm strength compared to Breeze, and you look at his arm strength compared to Phillip Rivers, and I would say he's number one in all with all 4 of those guys, the older guys in the league. Now the next guy would be Aaron Rodgers, and Aaron Rodgers is a freak. His arm's incredible, and it's still going to be incredible, but I think Ben has the arm. He can still play the game. He just needs someone to protect him from himself. And what I mean by that is, Ben, you're the player, play. Let the coach coach. I think Randy Fitchner, whether he had his entire thumbprint out on that offense or not, he's going to take the fall because he's the OC.
He did today.
But I think Ben had a lot of input, and players are players, coaches are coaches. You got to let the coach do his thing. Whether you think that's right or not, you got to do what the coach tells you. That's what he's getting paid for. And I think Ben maybe had a little bit too much input in the offense. He had too much input when he hired the offensive coordinator, and whether they allowed Randy Fitchner to have, full autonomy of the offense and without Ben's input. But I think if Ben has a coach that comes in and says, look, I'm going to tell you what you need to hear, not what you want to hear, Ben can still play in this league at a very high level and still be one of the top 10 quarterbacks in the league.
There's no doubt about it. If you don't understand that Ben's arm strength is still there and his accuracy is still there to play in this league, then I can't explain it to you. But for those of you who are willing to listen, especially a guy who played in the NFL at quarterback, I'll explain to you what went wrong with Ben Roethlisberger this year, okay? Again, whether it was Randy Fitchner that put in the dunk and dink, or whether it was Ben saying it was the dunk and dink, which I don't think it was, the way he took over the second half in the Indy game, and the 500 yards he threw against Cleveland. So the problem began early, okay? When they decided to have Ben do the 2.1 second release. Now, I've talked about this before. Mike knows this, okay? Why are you doing that? You have an older quarterback. He was only sacked 13 times this year. Kudos to the offensive line. But that quick release, Mike, keeps the linebackers and defensive line off of him.
Yeah, and it was a lack of run game, a lack of play-action pass. They were dead last in the league in play-action pass and dead last in the league in run. And so what that does is it allows a defensive line to pin their earbacks and go straight to that spot. And now they don't have to respect the run, especially when you go 5 wide on 3rd and 1, 4th and 1. And your quarterback, he's not as mobile as he used to be. You know he's not going to run. He's out of the gun, so he's not going to do a QB. He's not going to QB sneak from the gun. And now you don't have to worry about the sidecar even being back there with the handoff. So the D lineman can just go straight to a point. And now the defensive backs know 3rd and 1, 4th and 1. There's a high percentage that if we're going to put pressure on, we can kind of sit there at that 6 or 7 yard range because the quarterback has to get the ball out. If you bring that one extra pass rusher, they've only got 5 protectors. If they bring that 6th guy, there's a quarterback has to get the ball out in 2 point whatever seconds it is. Otherwise, he's going to get sacked. So the defense knows they can kind of play a little bit more aggressive. They can kind of squat around that 7-8 yard range, and they're willing to take that chance. Hey, are they going to try and send someone on a fade and blow them past me? It's got to be a perfect throw. It's got to be a perfect route. The timing's got to be done. There's a lot of variables that's got to go into it. So defenses are willing to take that chance, and I think that's what happened with Pittsburgh this year is the lack of run game and the lack of play-action pass. It makes you one-dimensional, and now the defense, it just simplifies things for them.
And the proof of that, I think it was Buffalo who said, we saw some things on tape. Was it Buffalo that said that?
Well, I don't know. They lost to Buffalo. They lost to the Washington football team.
It was the Redskins that said...
No, it was the football team.
Yeah. Sorry, the football team of Washington said we saw things on tape. What they were clearly alluding to was, again, the much heralded all over the national press, the 2.3, the 2.4, the 2.1 second release. Like Mike said, those defensive backs, the inside linebackers, it gives them a chance to play in front and close in on the ball. You saw interceptions against Buffalo. The Cleveland interceptions, same thing, the short dunk and dinks. That's a predictable, non-creative offense.
And you look at the Washington football team, they have a good defense. They've got a great pass rusher in Chase Young.
They got a great quarterback.
Well, you look at the defense, though. They've got a really good defense, and they have a great defensive-minded coach, Ron Rivera. So when you only do one thing, you're making it so much easier for him to get that game plan together. They don't have to worry about even the little stuff. Teams throwing a lot of wrinkles on purpose. I've been in part of organizations where say, hey, let's run this play. Well, why are we going to run that play? Why do we want to show that right now? We're winning. And coaches say, we want that on tape. We want teams to waste time in practice working on that because they only have so much time in practice to work on things now. So we want them to waste time doing certain things when we know we're not even going to use that against them. We have a different thing against them. So when you simplify it and you throw the ball every play at a 5 wide, you're going to make things easier on the defense. When you got great defensive coaches, with Ron Rivera and the Washington football team, then even up at Buffalo, Sean McDermott, he's a great defensive-minded coach, and Leslie Frazier, another defensive coordinator who's a great defensive-minded coach. I mean, they can do things defensively and shut down the offense.
They figured out Ben. They figured out the offense. So don't tell me Ben Roethlisberger is done, his career's over. The offensive scheme put Ben in a bad place this year. And again, I have no clue, and it doesn't matter if we figure it out, whether it was Ben deciding to go with the short dunk and dinks or your long gone offensive coordinator, Mr. Randy Fitchner. Whoever put that offense in, let's just cut to the chase, made a huge mistake to continue to run it throughout the year.
Yeah,
defense has figured it out.
And that offense basically it has evolved. It's Fitchner came in as a receivers coach, I believe, at first, and then he kind of got moved to quarterbacks coach, but it was under Arians. And then, so he gets to pick and choose a little bit of Arians' offense he likes. Then they bring in Todd Haley. Well,
don't even mention his name.
Fitchner's coaching.
Hold on. I didn't think there was a worse offensive coordinator than Todd Haley.
Well,
there is Randy Fitchner.
When you pick and choose bits and pieces of other guys' offense and you really don't have your own offense.
How about you create your own offense?
And that's what happened. He came in, he used the same terminology. The teams, when you hire someone from inside, they're not changing the terminology. When Randy Fitchner came in as the offense coordinator, he's not coming in and saying, all right, we're scrapping the playbook, we're putting this new stuff in. No way. He just pick and chose what he liked from Arians and Todd Haley and said, let's just kind of throw this together. And there was really no set offense there. It's kind of what he's learned as a receivers coach and quarterbacks coach in the Steelers system for the past 10, 12, however many years he's been here.
All right, Ben still has game. The 2.1 Duncan Dink failed him and you, Steelers Nation, miserably. Moving on to the second point, why I know Ben Roethlisberger still has game, and this team, and we'll get into it later, it's not done, Steelers Nation. Don't lose hope. A few Kevin Colbert's got to stay in Pittsburgh. He's a genius. The second thing that dead in Ben Roethlisberger this year, okay, is the lack of that run game. Now, I know a lot of you never played the game. You love the game, okay? I'm going to defer to Mike here now because he's going to explain some things to you that, well, if things had been done differently with this running game, and not even personnel-wise, scheme-wise. So, Mike, we're going to go, I want you to explain three different things, okay? First of all, the wraparound sidecar handoff, this running game the Steelers had. Secondly, that juxtaposed to the RPOs that have become famous over the last couple of years. Then, of course, Mike, as you and I said from Game 3, play action. So if you can take the viewers through, okay, the sidecar, which what they did all year.
To me, that's a mix-up. You want that. You do that a couple times a year, maybe.
The sidecar,
maybe once.
The wraparound, handing it off to Connor.
It's not. You don't want that as your staple.
That was their bread and butter. And what happened? It was a 32nd ranked running game in the league.
And it's hard to get a run game by doing that. You need to have something. Now, look, I get it. More teams are going to the shotgun. They go to the pistol. But at least when they're in the pistol, the running back's still behind you, coming from 8 yards with a downhill run type style. I like underneath center. I think it gets a little bit more flow. I think it gets a little bit more leverage. I think it gives a little bit more leverage for the O-line because they get their hand in the dirt. And I think it gives the running back a little better vision coming from 8 yards, 7.5, 8 yards deep, and being able to read the hole. You look at when Le'Veon Bell was here, how many times, Ben was underneath center coming back, giving him the ball, and you see Le'Veon Bell picking and choosing his hole, little jump cut, and boom, stutter step and go, and then he hit it and slashed. He had to sometimes pick and choose, but once he saw it, he went. And it's kind of hard to do that when you're kind of starting at 5 yards and you don't get that running start and you don't get that momentum to kind of pick and choose your hole.
Okay, so what does that do to the defense? If you've got a Duncan Dink passing game with a wrap around the corner, okay, is no diversity for the linebacker specifically.
It does get the linebackers a little bit. And so when you're in the sidecar, there's only so much fake you can only just kind of, just a little ride in front. So if the guy's over here, if the guy's on my left, the only way the guy's really going to run is kind of to the right. You're going to kind of do that little fake, and all right, he doesn't have the ball. I don't have to really shift. I can maybe take one side step. But when a quarterback's underneath center, and all of a sudden gets a snap, linemen come out low helmets, and he's driving back, whether he gets to that running back or not, that running back coming downhill at him, he steps forward.
Right.
That you need that step forward. You don't need a side step on a linebacker. You need that step forward. That step forward, now all of a sudden here comes, I'm going to peek, and now all of a sudden the tight end releases out behind him. The safeties are getting out of there.
What Mike's describing now is play action.
So you want
into play action.
So what happens is that little step forward gets that, because hey, when you're running the football and you're running that downhill game,
yeah.
Hey, the linebackers think, all right, wait,
Got to step on up.
They're kind of kicking my butt right now.
Got to step up
these
in a
guards
hole.
are getting up on me, and I can't get to the running back. So now that downhill, now all of a sudden you do that little play action. The linebacker's tired of getting his butt kicked.
If I step up in there,
I'm going to step up in there. I'm going to challenge this guard. I'm going to get out in front.
Here comes the tight end.
The tight end sneaks behind him. That one step is all you need in the NFL because the safeties are out of it. You don't want the safeties biting so much. You want the safeties getting back. You want the linebackers up because there's that little soft zone.
Or more so, which we saw a lot. Sorry to cut you off. Where Mikey's talking about that soft zone. Not only tight end, but we've seen Juju do it successfully
and the slot receiver.
At slot at 8 yards deep.
So
if you've got the play action coming, the linebacker is flying up in there because he's getting his butt kicked, as Mikey said, by the guard and a fullback and a running back. There goes Juju at 8.
Yeah.
All of a sudden, 22-yard pickup.
Well, that's what they want. The linebackers usually set at 4 to 6 yards, depending on down and distance.
How much play action did you see out of your Steelers this year?
Well, they were dead last, but you get that play action in.
And
now
dead last led to dead last in rushing as well.
Yeah, but you get down and distance. Say down and distance dictates the linebackers to be set at 4 yards. You get that play action pass. He steps up to 3 yards. Now you slip in that tight end behind him. That soft spot is typically 10 to 12 to 18 to 20 yards. That 12 to 18 yard zone. So now that linebacker's at 3. That the tight end can kind of build up to that 12 yard, and the safeties are getting out of there, and you can get that little deep cross up to about 17, 18 yards on the opposite side of the field on the numbers. There's different landmarks. We have routes. Get to the opposite numbers at 18 yards, at 16 yards. Get 2 yards outside the hash at 16 yards on play action pass. You turn around, you show low helmet, you get down as a quarterback. Peyton Manning gets down low, all those guys. Show that hard run, get those linebackers coming up, and you kind of come up and you're taught to learn, in some plays, you're taught to just turn and fire to the spot. Your job is to trust the play action pass and have your receiver at 18 yards, 2 yards outside the hash. And there was times when it's tough to see things and you're just trusting that receiver's there or you're throwing it, and it's his job to get to that point. It's your job to throw it there. So that play action pass helps a lot and just puts the defense into a bind. Hey, are they going to run it? They're going to throw it? What are they? You got them running side to side. You got them running vertical. You want them confused as much as you can. And when you line up at 5 wide, there's only one thing you can do, and that's throw the football.
Right. So therefore, what I'm trying to tell you, kitty cats out there, is Ben Roethlisberger still has games. They did him no favors with this wraparound run game this year. So we talked about the wraparound. Mike talked about play action. Yes, sir.
Now, if Ben Roethlisberger had the mobility that he did when he was younger, okay, and he's not Lamar Jackson, but who's very similar to him? I think Josh Allen is very similar to a young Ben Roethlisberger. If Josh Allen is in at 5 wide, okay, there's 2 things he can do. He can throw it and he can run it. Ben can't run it anymore. He's not going to run it anymore. He's too old, he's too big, and he's too slow.
But he can still get under center.
So when teams play Josh Allen or Lamar Jackson and they're 5 wide, teams know, okay, most likely he's going to throw it, but I have to spy this quarterback. I can't just go drop to my zone. I can't just fly out of there right away. I have to spy him. I have to sit here. So now I'm out of pass coverage, and I'm going to have to creep up and make sure he doesn't run. I have to keep him in that box. Because if he decides to escape, I'm the guy responsible to stopping the run. So now that takes one guy out of the pass coverage, and now it opens up other things. It takes that one robber, that one cop coverage. That guy kind of comes in the middle of the field, sitting there looking for those crossing routes like Minkah Fitzpatrick does so well against other teams. That's what Buffalo did against Ben and picked him. Now, all of a sudden, when that quarterback has no threat of a run, this guy that's spying the quarterback, hey, Lamar Jackson's going to run. Hey, Josh Allen's going to run. Well, hey, Ben's not going to run. I can go help cover whoever has the mismatch. Hey, Claypool's on a linebacker. Well, I'm going to help him over the top. Claypool's in the slot. You got to be able to create mismatches. And the Steelers are just too one-dimensional, and they can actually double-team Claypool. They can double-team Juju in the slot because Ben doesn't have that threat of a run anymore.
The third component, well, the second component, whatever it is, that they never utilized at all this year. I have no idea where the much heralded RPOs went, which is similar to play action, but it puts it more on a quarterback, especially, Mikey, if you've got a quarterback with 13, 14 years of experience, it's a Hall of Famer. That RPO allows him to make his own decisions, be his own boss, which so many quarterbacks wants to be. Where was the RPO this year?
Yeah, and they did quite a bit of it, but for the most part, he was pulling and throwing it. And there was a lot of times where if you just stick with the run, you know, you're opening up some gash holes. And so now you're taking the chance of, all right, we actually had the run here. You're in the gun. You're reading the linebacker. The read tells you to pull it and throw it, okay? But if you gave it, the lineman already had leverage on that linebacker, even though you got the read, and the hole opened up beautifully. And instead, you're throwing the ball, getting maybe a 2-3 yard gain when that run, yeah, it could have been stuffed for a 0-yard loss. Yeah, it could have got you 2 or 3, or yeah, it could have busted for 70, 60.
Right.
You know, you're taking that chance. And what I saw with the RPOs with Pittsburgh is too many times they had too many options on the field. And I remember one specific game in general, I think it was the Buffalo game. You know, they had a RPO, Ben throws it out here, and he's lucky the ball gets tipped because otherwise it's pick six going the other way. And then if Ben hands it off, it's still a good gain. But if Ben throws it to the other side, it's, you know, he's got Vance McDonald going down the field blocking. It's Juju with no one. And so there's just too many options. And I know it sounds good on paper. Hey, we got this option covered, we got this option covered, and we got this option covered. When you got you got 2 throwing options, 1 rushing option, and now, hey, look, you have to get that ball out on time, because if you don't, you get penalized, the illegal man downfield. And the Steelers got penalized against the Cleveland Browns with an illegal man downfield early in that game. And that's the downfall of that. But all that sounds great on paper. But when you get into a game and you've got live bullets and things are flying at you,
like linebackers and Cam Hayward,
it's much more difficult. It's much more difficult. And it might look good on paper, but it's not going to happen.
Look, here's the bottom line. Your quarterback that many of you want to send packing threw for 850 yards. 850 yards in the loss to the Browns, and when he decided to take over the game against the Indianapolis Colts,
550 yards.
550 yards against the Clowns, and another 250 against the Colts when Ben Roethlisberger took over the play calling. 850 yards in 5 quarters of football. That just doesn't happen with a quarterback who's ready for retirement. What does happen, though, when you get a one-dimensional offense, Duncan and Dinkin, with a 2.4 second release and a sidecar running game, well, you end up 32nd in the league in running, and you go home after losing to the Clowns.
Well,
had the Steelers put in more effective RPO management and a play-action running game, and I'm going to go to this. Had your Pittsburgh Steelers had a much better offensive coordinator, you had all the tools to make a deep run into the playoffs.
Yeah, and you talk about Ben's ability to throw the ball and get that many yards. And
850, Mike.
And that's great to turn to when you're down. That's great to turn to in the last 2 minutes of the half, in the last 2 minutes of the game. That's a great thing to turn to. You don't want that as your offense the entire season. And that's the thing. You got to be able to mix it up. And Ben has that ability to throw the ball as many times. You don't want to do that every game. Maybe one game a year you have to throw the ball 50 times, but you don't want to do that every game. And Ben definitely has it. He just needs help. And the thing is part of the problem is himself. He needs to play and let the coach coach. Hey, Ben should come in there and say, look, I want to play. I want to win another Super Bowl. And I want you, Coach Tomlin, I want you to bring in an offensive coordinator that's going to coach me. I want him to coach me hard. I want to have the best year of my career.
On the way out. Not the last image of him crying on the bench.
He needs to do,
he's coming back.
He needs to have a coach coach him, and he has to go to that coach and say, look, coach me as if I'm a rookie. Make me work as hard as I need to work to get there. You don't sit there and tell me what I want to hear. Tell me what I need to hear. And that's what and then they can be productive offensively, and right back in it.
All right, let's talk about 2021. Let's say Ben Roethlisberger comes back. He has the ability.
You better renegotiate that contract.
Well, that's another segment we're going to get into after that, is that salary cap hit, how the Steelers will do that with a 4-year contract, 3 years of it dummy money. But, Mike, if the Steelers are going to get serious, and look, they're not done. It's not easy, Steelers Nation. It's not the Bubby Brister era. Don't worry, there are not dark days in Pittsburgh.
Huh?
They are all this week. The Titanic's going down. Trust in this Steelers organization. Trust in the scouting department that finds you DeCastro, that finds you Claypool, that finds you Devin Bush, Mr. Watt, the Badger, all these great players that your scouting department and Kevin Colbert bring you. Kevin the Bulldozer Dotson, what a surprise this year. Trust that your Steelers are going to get this team on track. Who knows what they pick up in the draft? We'll get into that later too. Let's go back to the offense, and Ben, let's assume he's coming back next year. Mike, what do you do with this offense in 2021 to get to the Super Bowl in Montreal? Isn't that where the Super Bowl is next year, Montreal? I don't know.
You have to go out and get an offensive-minded coach, an offensive coordinator, and one that is... It utilizes the run game. Get back to Steeler. They call it Steeler football. Well, for the past 10 years, all I've seen is just throwing the ball so much, and more so in the most recent years. So get back to a young offensive-minded guy that's going to come in here. Bring in Ben. Say, Ben, do you want to play? Do you want to come back? You still got it. We think you still got it. Do you want to play? All right, first we're going to renegotiate that contract so we can kind of get some other players in here to help you out. But okay, now we're going to go out and get an offensive-minded guy. It's going to come in, he's going to put in some run, he's going to put in some play-action pass. We have to get to that downhill running game again, and we're going to try and take the pressure off you by getting the ball out of your hands, but also utilizing play-action pass, helping you out a little bit. Maybe move the pocket just a little. Hey, we know you don't want to run. You're a little bigger, you're a little older now, so let's just move it around.
But that doesn't mean he can't be under center.
You can move the pocket, you move it from the gun, you can move it from center, you can do a lot of different things. We just need to get a lot more
offense? A lot more offense in our offense?
A lot more diversity, a lot more run, a lot more
offense in our offense.
Just a little bit more of a mix-up, some formations, some shifts, some motions. Get someone in that is a young offensive mind guru and say, look, you have to take his instruction. If you do that, we can be very successful.
From shame to glory is what the old tanker's predicting in 2021. From shame to glory will go your Pittsburgh Steelers, because I believe in this Pittsburgh Steelers organization. Stairway to 7, baby, in 2021. I believe in Kevin Colbert and the scouting department. I believe in this core team that's here. You got a lot of young players, too. Now, you're going to have to get rid of some people in free agency. We'll do that in the next segment. But again, for you folks out there saying, Ben Roethlisberger, he ain't got it no more, he's done. You're the same guys 12 years ago who were saying that Ben Roethlisberger holds on to the ball too long. He runs around, he holds on. I heard you down at Jack's. You're the same guys down at Jack's bar in the South Side. You're going, he's done. He ain't done. From shame to glory in 2021 will go your Pittsburgh Steelers if they can get some offense in the offense, Mike.
Yeah.